Welcome to the Mindset Mutiny podcast. I am your host, Mike Ivanov. Join me as we challenge the status quo, break free from self-imposed limits, and redefine what's possible. What's up, everybody? I got some great stuff to touch on today. Super excited to get started, so we'll skip a lot of the bullshit and we'll get right to it. I'm going to talk about the stories we tell ourselves is what limits us most. This is very close subject to me. I've been telling myself stories over and over again for years and years and years, and it's done nothing but held me back. So I've finally figured out how to identify those stories and retell new ones. So let's get started. The stories we tell ourselves is what limits us most. We all tell ourselves stories of who we think we are, stories of what we think we can't do, stories of things outside our reach. Well, I'm here today to tell you that those stories are not true. They are stories made up of self-limiting thoughts. When we were kids, our parents would tell us we can do anything we want in life. Whatever we dream up, we can do. That is 100% true. Unfortunately, as we grow, we face challenge. And we fail. And we fail again. And then we tell ourselves a story about those failures. Story after story, year after year, until it becomes who we are. But it's never too late to rewrite that story. So these stories, they shape our perceptions and actions. So if we know these stories are not true, why do we allow them to dictate how we see the world and act within it? These stories, they set boundaries of what we believe is possible for ourselves. I can tell you right now, I don't like being told that I can't do something. I'm sure you don't either. I don't like when somebody puts me in a box and tells me I can't step outside it. What's really weird about that is we all don't like that, but yet we do it to ourselves every single day, multiple times a day, with stories of what we can't do. Something we really need to pay attention to, gain awareness on, and rewrite that story. So these stories, they will limit our growth and success. We will never be able to achieve what we're capable of if we allow these narratives to run inside our mind. Self-limiting thoughts are dangerous. I have had to deal with them for years. Always been afraid of public speaking, talking in front of groups of people, to the point where it has made a determination on jobs that I've pursued. I've always run from it, hidden in the back of the room. You name it, I've done it. But coming out of the tail end of 2019, I decided I was going to change things. Decided I was going to become great at public speaking, no matter how painful that was. And I have pursued it passionately. And now I've grown to love it. But the story I told myself was that I'll never be good at it. And that I'm just not set up for it. Same as running. A couple of years ago, I couldn't run a mile. Told myself, hey, you're not a runner. You're 5'10", 209 pounds. People that size don't run. I've always hated running, so that story helped me stay comfortable. So I allowed that story to play for some time. And finally I said, I'm done with the bullshit. Let's go see if I can run. And I've always had a hard time staying consistent with it. Up until this year, where I finally went all in, Made it a priority. Just finished a half marathon. Huge accomplishment for me. Small accomplishment for some, but for me, it was huge. I rewrote the story. It's amazing how you feel when you identify the story, write a new one, and then go accomplish things that you always thought were outside your reach. Anyway, on to examples of self-limiting thoughts. I'll never be as talented or successful as they are. A lot of us say this. I'm guilty of it. I've said it in the past. It's a bunch of bullshit. If I express my true feelings or ideas, people might reject or dislike me. Who cares what people think about you? As soon as I stopped worrying about what people thought about me, changed the course of my entire life. I'm going to be me no matter what. I'm going to be genuine. I'm not going to wear a mask. I'm not going to tell people what they want to hear. In my life now, I value people that are themselves and aren't trying to play some other narrative. But that's a self-limiting thought because it stops you from sharing how you really feel. It stops you from participating. It stops you from celebrating your differences. If I express my true feelings or ideas, people might reject or dislike me. Another bullshit thought. I can't network. I'm too introverted to connect with strangers. Another self-limiting thought. Why can't you connect with strangers? Most of you can't even answer that question. And once you try to start answering it, it's going to be full of a bunch of bullshit, excuses, one after the other. The reason why you can't connect with strangers is because you don't want to, or it's not important enough to you, where you make time for it. You'd rather be in your bubble, rather be in your comfort zone. Well, if you're interested in growth, there is none in the comfort zone. One of the biggest things to help with this narrative, rewriting these self-limiting thoughts, is removing I can't from your vocabulary. Don't even say it. The words I can't are some of the most limiting words that can ever come out of your mouth. And some of you have probably used that word today, and even more of you this week. Use the words I can't to your family members, your loved ones, people at work, and worse of all, you use those words to yourself. When you start telling yourself that you can't do things, that's a real dangerous place to be. So, my best recommendation is to remove the words I can't from your vocabulary. Don't even say it. When you become conscious of doing this, you'll catch yourself saying it. And you need to immediately stop. I put this into practice 4 years ago, and I don't use the words I can't. If you want to, you can say I haven't yet. But even that's some crap. Don't use the words I can't. Avoid it at all costs. Because as soon as you say it, game's over. It's I can. I can do this. I can do that. When I talk to people about running, people will always be quick to say, oh, I can't run that far. I can't do that. I used to say that too until I went and ran those distances I said I couldn't run. So I told you I've completed a half marathon, which was a big goal of mine. Always seemed like a dream that was never going to happen because I'd always say the words, oh, I can't run. I'm not built for that. I can't run that far, blah, 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 until I did. And I remember I told a buddy about running the 13.1, And all he said to me was, on to 26.2. And you know what? Like, that's the shit I need to hear. Talk about a guy that's not going to let you have a self-limiting thought. I'm over here celebrating running 13.1, and he just sends me a text back, on to 26.2. Those are the people you want to surround yourself with. Because I'll tell you right now, he'll tell me all day I can do it. And he told me all day I could do a half marathon. But it took me rewriting the story I was telling myself to make it happen. You have to pursue the unknown. But you'll never be able to pursue the unknown if you use the words I can't. And you allow self-limiting thoughts to take over your life. Stop the excuses. That's a big one for me. I was always guilty of this. But in my daily life now, I hear so many people making excuses for why they can't do things. I'm tired. I don't have the time. Things are busy. Life is hectic. Well, Nick Bear always says, if it's important, you'll make time for it. That's a line that resonates with me. If it's important, you'll make time for it. So that's kind of how I go about things every single day. Same thing with this podcast. I told you I put it off for so long. Made excuses. Well, now there's nowhere to run. I have to do this podcast, and I have to get good at it. I have to deliver a message that I think matters. Stop the excuses. Once you stop making excuses, you become in control of your life. You are accountable. I'll tell you right now, no one gives a fuck about your excuses. Let's just get it out there. No one gives a fuck. You may think they do, and that's because they're not telling you the truth. But I'll tell you right now, when somebody's making an excuse to me, I just can't wait for them to stop. And it changes how I look at them. The type of human being that I think they are. I challenge you to think about how you feel when somebody gives you an excuse. Think about it. When you needed somebody to do something, you needed somebody to be there for you, you needed somebody to take action, and they just give you an excuse as to why they didn't or couldn't. What are you thinking about them in that moment? I'll give you a second. What do you think about them while that crap is coming out of their mouth? I can tell you what I think. Somebody that I don't want to have on my team. That's for sure. Goes both ways. So when you start to make an excuse, think about how you felt when somebody was giving you one. And I urge you to never make an excuse again. Stop making excuses to others. But most importantly, and I cannot say this enough, stop making excuses to yourself. That's where your life changes. Everybody's sitting around looking for some hack, some way to get better without having to put in the work. The path of least resistance. You want to get better, but you don't want to fucking break a sweat. You don't want to get off the couch. You don't want to go talk to strangers. You don't want to go be uncomfortable. You don't want to go suck at something. Well, nothing's going to change if you don't go put yourself through that. But people love the excuses. Makes them feel better about not achieving anything. But the day that you stop making them to yourself is the day your entire life changes. So, if we can pay attention to these stories that we tell ourselves, become aware of them, and we'll talk about that in the next episode, awareness surrounding these stories. Stop using the words I can't. Stop making excuses to others, and most importantly, to yourself. If you can do all of those things, I promise you, based on my experience, you can change the course of your life forever. So get out there and make it happen. Catch you on the other side.